Could tomorrow be the day when we learn more about an ongoing investigation into allegations of corruption at Hartford City Hall? It could be. A judge could decide tomorrow on whether or not he'll release his report tied to a secret grand jury investigation. This after postponing that decision last week, which left many in the capital city disappointed, to say the very least. Beneath the Hartford City skyline on the streets below.
It has been going on a long time. I almost forgot about it. It's been so long.
Today was the day Cheryl Anderson, like many others here in Hartford, were hoping to get some answers into the ongoing corruption probe into City Hall, which has been going on for years.
I think, they owe us that. Just let us know what's going on.
Since 2007, a one-man grand jury has been looking into allegations of corruption at Hartford City Hall. And here in the capital city, many wonder where else the axe could fall after the mayor's arrest in January. Now, with the grand jury probe wrapped up, folks will have to continue walking on eggshells for a few more days. Today, the judge behind the probe said he would postpone releasing his report while prosecutors argued to keep it sealed and attorneys for the Hartford Courant pushed to keep it open. Former federal prosecutor turned defense attorney Reese Norris says he has seen lives ruined just for being named in a grand jury probe.
The fact that the one-man grand juror finds probable cause that a crime has been committed and names names does not necessarily mean the prosecution is going to believe they have a sufficient case to successfully prosecute and ultimately seek an arrest warrant.
And with all eyes on the capital city, here to talk more about what happens next are defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Mr. Reese Norris, who you just saw in that story there, Hartford City Councilman Mr. Ken Kennedy, and Hartford Courant reporter Mr. Jeffrey B. Cohen. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. I guess, Councilman Kennedy, we're going to start with you. Okay. This has been a difficult 2 years for the city of Hartford with this ongoing probe. I was speaking with folks in the city saying that they almost had forgotten it was going on because it's been going on so long. What do you think happens tomorrow? Do you think more names could be dropped in connection with this corruption
Well, if you believe
probe?
everything that's been said by the investigators themselves, particularly after the January arrest, then yes, there will be more names than just the mayor. But we have no way to know that other than the previous statement that they made back in January. I think all residents in the city probably are a little frustrated with the pace of the investigation. It has been a cloud over the city for some time. It was around the 2007 election, and that's a long time ago. It has changed some things politically within the city. But I think for us to move forward, we need to see the investigative report. I hope it's not sealed any longer, and that the citizens of Hartford can read it for themselves and make their own determinations.
Reese, Councilman Kennedy brought up a good point. Why is this taking so long? Now, let's just say also that you have no connection at all with this case. We have you here as a legal expert. Right. But why is it that this is taking so long?
Well, normally the one-man investigatory grand jury is scheduled for 6 months. And you're going to have 2 statutory 6-month extensions, and that's exactly what's happened. So there you have the 18-month period. But typically these cases take a long time with subpoenaing records and going through a lot of documents and taking a lot of testimony. So quite frankly, in political corruption cases, 18 months is really not extraordinary.
Jeffrey, bring us up to speed on where we are now. Sure. It's unusual to even be at this point because, as both of our guests have mentioned, grand juries typically are top secret. You're not even supposed to know that they're going on, but clearly we knew about this grand jury. The investigation has wrapped up. But the big question seems to be, will we actually see the report?
Don't know is the best answer. On Monday of this past week, the grand jury is secret, but if you go to New Britain Superior Court and you stand in the hallway, all that makes it secret are some blinds over a door, over a window in courtroom 3G. So it's secret, but not terribly secret in terms of who's coming and going. In terms of the report, this past Monday, there were 4 attorneys representing various people who appeared before the judge in a closed-door session. And all we know is that they were there to discuss whether or not to seal the report. And that hearing was postponed till Monday. And we don't know why. We don't know what's being considered. We don't know who's arguing what. We're just sort of waiting and seeing.
And for full disclosure here, we also have to tell you that we do tape on Thursdays, and there is a chance that something could happen between now and when the show airs on Sunday, correct?
That's right.
All right, so Councilman Kennedy, what's it like at City Hall? A lot of people walking around on eggshells?
No.
No.
No. It's been a long process, so I think we've all gotten pretty used to the investigation. I've testified myself. Others, I believe, have testified within City Hall, many employees, so it's not an eggshell situation. In fact, the mayor hasn't changed his style of governing, in my opinion, one iota. The circle is still small. It's still a top-down process from the mayor's point of view, and I think what has changed in the governing standpoint is that the council seems to be a little bit more independent than it was prior to the 2007 election.
It's much harder, I think, now. Sorry to interrupt, but it's much harder, from Ken's point, for the mayor to count to 6 on the city council now, 6 out of 9, than it was beforehand. For a while, as an observer, Ken and a couple others, but Ken was a voice of dissent, like it or not. And then there were more, suddenly. And I think it's hard to separate why, but it's certainly been the case that since the mayor's taken some hits publicly, that it's harder to get to 6.
Well, since the mayor's taken some hits publicly, the council probably now there are 5, maybe 6, depending, more so, not in opposition to the mayor, but maybe more critical of resolutions, ordinances that come before us from the administration than maybe had been in years past. And that probably is a very, very good thing.
Exactly. Well, I guess if you're saying so, yeah,
well,
it gives you a little bit more.
Well, not just from just a pure government's point of view. You want your legislative body to be an effective check on the power of the executive, and we were not. Prior to that, in my humble opinion, my view.
We also do want to point out that we did also invite Councilman Calixto Torres to appear on the show. He's out of town, just so you know. We had all the bases covered. Reese, let's go back to you. Councilman Kennedy said he thinks this document should be made public. You, on the other hand, when we spoke a few days ago, said that perhaps not.
That's true.
Why is that? Because you're saying people can be ruined. Their reputations can be ruined just for being named in a grand jury investigation, and it doesn't mean that they'll ever be charged.
That's true. A one-man grand juror could find probable cause and name, and then the case could go to the office of the chief state's attorney, and he may determine that there's insufficient evidence to seek an arrest warrant, or applies for an arrest warrant. It's declined by a judge. If that person then would have their reputation ruined, they have no opportunity to exonerate themselves publicly, and would be disgraced. And it's one of the risks of releasing a grand jury report such as this, which may name names as a finding by a judge that that individual, he or she, committed a criminal offense.
But Reese, could I ask, is that, I don't know the law very well at all, but the law has 4 very specific reasons why a judge can seal it, because otherwise it becomes public. And is keeping someone's character clean, or not defaming, or is that one of the, do you know if that's one of the exemptions?
It's not one of the specified elements, and you're absolutely correct. The statute is very clear that the judge has to make a finding of substantial probability, which I believe is like clear and convincing evidence, that one of a number of things may occur. One of them is someone's going to be deprived of fair trial. And one could argue this both ways on behalf of the mayor. One could say the mayor's trial's coming up, and one could argue, on the other hand, well, there's already been a finding of probable cause because he was arrested. So I could argue on both sides. How that argument can rise to a substantial probability, though, in the eyes of the judge, leads me to believe the report's going to be released.
You know this judge, so yes, you think he will release it?
It's my belief that it's going to be released.
Yeah, and that argument's much more difficult by the fact that the mayor's already been arrested, and that report's already been made public. So you know, damage to character, I think, would be a harder hill to climb than maybe it had been if it had not been released prior to in the arrest warrant. Okay, gentlemen, we are all out of time. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.